everyone.
One minute, Sabian.
Thank you.
Going to where the Ali will be a few minutes late.
Just send an email.
Well, I should mention that to others. If you haven't had a chance to look at your email, Ali is gonna be late. Maybe we're on 20 minutes, so Sabian is gonna be carried. Hey, Sabian, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this special meeting for November 1, 2021 to order. And we will be discussing a select pair of or some contracts. As we go to the discussion item, is there anyone from the team who would like to introduce this item?
Okay, good morning, or good afternoon, rather, or evening to our board members, to my fellow colleagues, to the superintendent. Sabian, was you referencing our team from building services, or that question addressed to members of the board?
Your team from building services.
All right, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. To our board members, today's first of all, thank you for this opportunity to provide a little more clarity in regards to the consent memo item that was sent to you as of October 25th. You should have before you 3 documents. Document number 1, which is the actual consent item. That consent item speaks directly to the referendum 2020 design assist, which speaks to the pre-construction bid for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection for Memorial High School, La Follette, and Southside. The second document that you have also is a board policy 5000 document, which speaks to the specific rationale around the policy and its applicable applications as assigned to us by our previous Building Services Director, Chad Weezy, Brandon Haverson, and our rationale behind the document itself. The third document that you have, and you should have got this today, speaks to a summary. The summary version of what we did, we tried to capture all of the bid proposals and put it into a summary format that outlines for you our response, our rationale to the policy, our application of the policy, as well as the scorecard, as well as the final bidding parameters as well. Today, me and my team, myself and Mike Starr is here today to answer any questions that you may have. I'll turn it over to Mike for a couple minutes to give you a summary view of the third memo I just talked to you about, which gives you a summary version of the entire bid process. We'll try to condense this information as quickly as possible and then open up any questions you might have. I'll turn it over to Mike. Mike.
Hi, everybody. Mike Starr. I'm the Facilities Electrical and Technology Manager for the district, and I'm serving as interim Assistant Director of Maintenance in Brandon Halverson's absence. So I'm going to share my screen here to show the memo that I have. Okay. All right. So this portion of the memo here is what details how we went about the process of selecting the design assist contractors for both the first and the second round. And just a comment, design assist being that we have not yet issued construction documents for these referendum projects. Due to the age of the buildings, we brought on the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection contractors ahead of the construction documents being issued, such that they can help us with the design and visit our buildings and investigate what's being put on paper by the engineers and the architects, so that when we bid the projects, we hopefully don't have as many surprises or change orders. So it was a design assist approach to the project. So I'm just going to scroll over this memo without reading it in detail and just making sure you generally understand the context that's available, and then I'll stop to be able to answer any questions that you have. So the purpose is because of the item 10.16 that was pulled during the board meeting, October 25th. And during that meeting, there were some union advocates that had some comments, and that was what prompted the pulling of that item. Yep, I could pause, Nikki, if you'd like to ask.
No, I'm just getting in the queue.
Okay, great. All right. So the first is a high-level bullet point summary of what is contained in the memo. The first bullet point talks about the different styles of bidding that can be used. The second one here highlights, as I've kind of described to you already, about these are design assist contractors. So you'll notice that the dollar amounts in the consent memo that was pulled are not millions and millions of dollars. They're hundreds of thousands of dollars because we're paying pre-construction fees. So in addition to these contractors submitting a budget to what they suggest the project is worth at the time of them being unfinished documents, they also submitted hourly rates. And those are the hourly rates are set to be used for the project. Item 3 here is just helping note that we did assign 5 points specific for union contractors, and that was included in the scorecard. Number 4 is highlighting that Brandon Halverson and Chad Weezy are the ones that have established the processes that we used for both the first and the second round. And Brandon Halverson was present even through the interviews and the scoring card process for the second round. So our team is implementing the processes that they've established. And then 5th is just noting that we understand the union contractors has many comments specifically against this non-union contractor, or just in general about non-union contractors. So within the memo, we've provided some insights. On the second page, this top document tries to help provide some context about the request for bid, request for proposal, request for qualification. This is a document available online by a legal counsel. The main takeaway is just helping the board understand that we utilize a request for proposal procurement method, which means that lowest bid is not the only factor in selection. DPI, here's one for you, just kind of helping understand our due diligence with regard to DPI. DPI does not provide any guidance for how we should do procurement within the district. It's not for school districts, but they do have one related to food service for USDA. So this is at least one that you can point to see how another entity has interpreted the state statutes and requirements. With that, the takeaway is that there are different procurement methods, as we said, for bid, for proposal, for quote. And in the documentation for the DPI, as far as this is for the school food authority, they've designated those different procurement methods to be micro, small, sealed, or proposals. All of them have different contexts. For instance, micro and small can just be verbal. Nothing needs to be written due to the dollar amount. You could have a vendor that you're working with and decide that you need to make a small purchase, and that's perfectly acceptable. The next is a link to our 6244 policy, which I believe you're familiar with. And then following is our policy 5000. This kind of notes the synergy, I suppose, potentially synergy between these policies and how they can be written, how they can be interpreted. You could interpret it such that all policy, all procurement that building services does with respect to construction and repair of buildings has to follow both policies, or you could read it as it just needs to be following policy 5000. This is the eggshell here, a nutshell of what the process was for us implementing the design assist procurement process. And it goes starting again with Brandon and Chad being the arbiters of our process. It defines here at the bottom that after we had because this is a proposal based, we had a scorecard that was reviewed with the union prior to us beginning this process for both the first and second round. And just like as typical in the process, is the short list. So not all were interviewed. They were only interviewed if the interview points would have actually made a difference in the final scorecard. I won't go one by one here, but these are union concerns we've heard, such as the quality of work by non-union contractors. And I think the board policies reflect that we agree, we value union work. And in that, there's that 5% item in policy 5000. There's this particular comment here for the non-union contractor that's under question currently by this meeting, NAMI. And we just want to make sure the board understands that NAMI is a good partner for the district and has had significant projects with us in the past and has been approved by the board in the past. Here is a preview of what the scorecards look like. Again, these scorecards were reviewed with the union ahead of time. They made no specific exceptions to the scorecards other than we had put union involvement separate in its own category. This is also, again, included in the RFP so that all contractors understood the basis for selection. General comments about this, note that NAMI, this non-union contractor, did not win all scopes of work in which they had bid on. So union contractors were competitive, and with this exact same procurement method, they won and were chosen to be awarded pending board approval, this other union contractor when competing against this non-union contractor. So you will note that NAMI here receives 0 points, 0 points, 0 points for union involvement. Union contractors received 5 points. So the question of did we implement policy 5000? We did so, and we did so in a very transparent method because it was done up front. And that way the contractors, union contractors or otherwise afterwards wouldn't be wondering if we compared the 5% later. It was built right into the scorecard. So one of the arguments by the union is that necessarily the scorecard final score is where they also need 5%. And we've explained to them that the 5% is built in the scorecard, which they understood in the pre-meeting, so that we cannot add them another 5 points outside of the scorecard. So when Dr. McGregory and myself and Sherry and Cedric, after the board meeting, had pulled that item and we started reviewing to provide the board all the necessary information for you to make a decision, informed decision, Dr. McGregory asked me during a Zoom call, Mike, is it within 5%? And I kind of stumbled for a minute. And he said, Mike, you wouldn't necessarily make a great lawyer. And the reason I was stumbling, the reason I didn't provide a direct, immediate answer is because it's not that simple. The 5% is only appropriate in a bid scenario, as noted here and as described by the documents above. For instance, this one by Shayna Lewis, there are several procurement methods. So just judging the lowest price is just not appropriate, unfortunately, with the method. So what we did do here is put 3 pages worth for each school, La Follette, Memorial, and Southside, the bid analysis. And remember that there are proposals, there were also retail labor rates that are provided. So this isn't the full story, but if the board has interest in understanding what the budget submitted by the design contractor was, this is it. So on this first one, La Follette High School, which the union contractor won, 1901 is the name of the union contractor. You can see here that they were indeed the lowest bid, coincidentally. And the scorecard also carried all the other factors that we used in evaluating these proposals. And we recommend to the board to award to 1901. Memorial High School, despite price not being the only factor, NAMI is 19% lower than the nearest contractor, which in this case is 1901. So if 5% is your only question and this budget number is here and you want to disregard the proposals and everything else, and NAMI is 19% lower than the next closest contractor. Here's Southside, and they're 15% lower than the next closest contractor. And then here's the award matrix that we proposed. The board approved the first set on September board meeting. And the item that was pulled on the 25th is these lower items. So we just wanted to highlight here, and that we've highlighted for the union, that we do feel that it was a really great win for union work. Out of the 24 trade packages that were available, they were awarded 22. So I'll stop there and look to answer your questions.
Yes,
Well, thank you. So if all board members can please raise your hand via Zoom, I will call in the order in which they are shown. So in the queue right now, we have board member Vandermillen, then followed by board member Marilli.
yeah, I have a bunch of questions. Namely, why did we get the memo today that spoke on the general questions and bidding on? Why did we get the memo today that spoke on the general questions on the bidding when we asked for it last week? Is my first one. Should I list them, or do you want me to?
So I'll just make a comment on that for you, Nikki, that I can appreciate that you guys were looking for this material last week. I can say that the individuals, myself included, that are needed to put together this level of detail for the board is many. And so we did do this as promptly as possible. The specifics as to why you received it hours before was only because we had two memos, each of them kind of demonstrating a different thing. So we apologize for the confusion.
But it was dated October 27th. It's November 1st. That's what I'm confused on. How many days is separate from it? Was it ready on October 27th? That's where I'm confused.
So I drafted that memo at between the hours of 9 p.m. on the 26th and 3 a.m. on the 27th. And so then it was available to the team members, my team members here, or my colleagues on the 27th. And then on the 28th, there was legal review. On the 29th, there was continued collaboration. And so we made it available as fast as possible.
I don't think we should vote on this today. That's a comment. But because I don't think I've had enough time to go through the additional 9 pages of material. But my other questions, if I may ask, why are we doing design assist on a brand new building? The school at Rimrock is brand new. It's not an aging infrastructure. Why would you do design assist on a new building?
So design assist is actually a procurement method that is not exclusive to existing buildings. It's very prevalent in the industry, and most contractors that you talk to, whether it's in the public or private sector, would tell you, and with high degree of confidence, they would say over 60% of the work that they're doing is design assist. With this bid environment and climate, as far as trying to deliver projects and with the lead time concerns, this is a method that many owners are doing to better ensure they can deliver their projects on budget and within schedule.
Additionally, my next question is on the full scope. How can we compare to make sure that we're getting the same quality from NAMI as we're getting from another company? Do we know the materials used at, say, Kenmore versus, I'm just making up brands that I've heard of, versus Maytag, for example? Do we know who's using bare minimum, who's using the best of the best? Do we have the scope of the bids? Because otherwise, how do you measure one side to the other? I'm just kind of confused. I'm not trying to be overly critical. I'm just, we made a commitment when we did the referendum, and the union were good partners, and I understand they don't win them all, and I don't expect them to win them all. Heaven knows this is not a one size only. What I'm worried about is we don't have the enough info. And my second question, which I really worry about, is the fact that we stated that the scorecard was not going to replace Policy 5000. We relayed the scorecard. And now we're going back and forth, and I'm worried about the transparency of the public. So those are my main concerns. And also, I would like to see why we haven't seen any of the procedural requests. Oh, and I have one more. Can I ask it just really quick? And that would be, my last one would be, why are we putting construction issues that are part of a referendum in the consent decree, instead of having them discussed in a board meeting? They're in a regular work group. I think that they're more important than just a consent decree group, yay or nay. I think it needs to have more discussion than that, but that's all I have.
Okay. Should I proceed to answer what I think I heard as 3 questions? So the first question with regard to quality, the project is not driven, the selection materials is not driven by the contractor team. Our architects and engineers are drawing plans, and they are providing specifications, and the only manufacturers that are allowed in those specifications are ones in which we have reviewed and confirmed with. Even the means and methods of how they construct and install are very specific in the plans. And so we at Building Services would not provide any preference at all to a union versus a non-union contractor. If we perform a site visit or otherwise they propose or anything, if it doesn't meet the contract documents, we hold them to the requirements. So there is no difference with that respect. And as I noted, NAMI has indeed done plenty of work for the school district, so we can provide a vote of confidence with that regard. The second question I heard was policy 5000 versus a scorecard and how that is transparent with the public. The policy 5000 addresses only for bid instances. It doesn't address the other procurement methods. A simple for bid process would not work for over $300 million project. We cannot just ask for the lowest bid. We have to ensure that we will be getting providing for the project in more than just the lowest bid. And so the scorecard, although the procurement methods aren't very detailed in policy 5000, used a proposal method, RFP. And by that, we developed a scorecard. And the scorecard, that is typical industry practice. And with respect to the bidders, we, for the union, sat with them ahead of time and overviewed it, and they agreed that this would be okay. And the first round of RFPs that the board approved in September used that same method without exception by the union contractors, such that maybe one union contractor got it over the other. So the scorecard has been indeed very transparent. And as far as the procedural request for the consent item, we just want you to know that these 2 consents were brought to the board, not because we were asking to contract with these design assist contractors. Building Services, MMSD, will not be holding the contracts for these design assist contractors. Our construction manager will. So our bringing it to the board is the request of increasing the contract amount for the construction manager. And we are specifically bringing to the board because we are here to serve and make sure we're following policies, and we want to make sure that you're in agreement too. So it's more or less us just bringing it to the board with that respect. And we agree that the decisions that need to be made in the referendum could indeed use a council of individuals to help us pay more attention to these, so that it, as you see, 9 pages worth, it's not easy to help the board be caught up at all times. So we agree with that.
Also, I forgot one thing, Chair, may I ask it?
One moment, Board Member Vandermolen. Mr. Starr, thank you so much for your presentation and work tonight. And this item has certainly brought a lot of concern and intrigue from the board and the community. So I just wanted to say that. And Mike, I just wanted to ask you, how do you prefer to answer questions? Do you prefer board members lay out questions all at once or go one by one?
I want to serve it the best way of the time of the board. So I'm happy to facilitate it in any way you would work for the board.
Got it. Okay. Board Member Vandermolen, one more question. We are 25 minutes into the meeting.
I understand, and I thank the chair for their permission. I know there were 3 contractors, but only 2 got interviews. Why was that, may I ask?
Yes, thanks for asking that question. Let me just open here the scorecard and we can look at that very quickly to help that be, more understood. Okay, so if for instance here, if we go to the
Do you
interview
mind-
column,
Do you
Yes.
mind making your screen just a little bit larger, please?
sure. I
On like
will attempt.
Control plus or something? Yeah, thank you.
Is that better? Okay. So if we look here, if we look at the interview points here, at this particular contractor, we'll just use this one for one example. This is for Southside. Hooper ended up with 0 points for the interview because they weren't invited to interview. And the reason being is the interview was worth 10 points. So as you can see here with their points of 70, if they received all 10 points, they would still only have 80 points. And as you can see, that would not make a difference. So this was necessarily our justification for not, and we put together a short list, which is typical.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I see Board Member Morelli, followed by Dr. Jenkins, followed by Board Member Carusi. And if board members could lower their virtual hand after.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Thank you.
I'm wondering, Dr. Jenkins, if you wanted to go first, if you're addressing overall comments.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just listening. I've been looking at this over and over because I know it's a very serious, anytime you're going out and you're trying to do bidding, you're trying to do construction, and just haven't done many of them. The one thing that did stick out for me though, Mike, 19%. When we say 19% and all of these professionals, be it union or non-union, but what I have seen in my experience, sometimes non-union have underbidded, and then the contingency in which we set in place, we wind up going over that, which concerns me with this. I appreciate the work that you, the entire team, you've done. I'm talking about from your end of it, very thorough. I'm just going based upon what I have seen in particular when we are in some of the bidding process, and I get overly concerned when somebody's like way under. And you and I both know, like anytime you do a swimming pool, some people come in like really low, and then they have to go back in and say, oh, we didn't estimate this in the scope of work. This concerns me with this. This is one, and I think I appreciate your explanation because I know that it takes time. It's been a lot of people working on the memo, but I'm concerned that the board's having to make a decision tonight on something like this. And I just want to make sure everything is there in its entirety. We come back and even in looking at making sure that we're giving all the open opportunities for our locals and for our unions to be really frank about it, but also being good stewards to our taxpayers in general. So I'm the 19%, I just tell you, it's a red flag. And I wish I could have had that conversation. I just got cut off today when I was just looking at it. I'm saying this is still burning for me, 19%.
Happy to speak to that, yeah.
Please.
So as I mentioned, this design assist method is the drawings and the specifications and the basis of design narrative documents is what these contractors had to propose. So they were not saying we're going to build for X dollars. They were not bidding on the construction. They were bidding on a design assist. And the design assist is to help us get to those construction documents. So it is not surprising for me to see the 19%, the 15%. They're bidding or putting together budget numbers and providing retail labor rates for documents that hadn't been completely engineered, haven't been completely architecturally, structurally, all the other items that are necessary for us to provide projects. They were bidding with budgetary numbers for what could be. Now, so the question is 19% too much? Is it really, even in the condition that I said that we're looking for design assist partners and they're giving us retail? Is that crazy? Too much. What we have with our design assist partners is also our construction manager that's been managing to a budget. So we had numbers we were hoping these contractors would be, would hit because that's what we had expected. So we had estimated, just like when we bring any other consent item to the board, we estimate what we hope it will be, and then we have to go competitively bid it. So it's been competitively bid. And in that way, we know that the numbers are, they help gut check our number. And in some cases, they were higher than our numbers. And now we need them to manage to the budget. And knowing that they didn't have construction documents, now that we have them on board or pending board approval, we manage to our estimate. So if these contractors, and in some cases were indeed, even the lowest number was higher than our number, but they're not fully informed of the current conversations because the documents aren't complete. So the gap is there, but we feel very confident regarding the gap. And I'm just frankly, I understand it's a concern of the board. Just in my experience from the construction, we put together very tight documents as best as we can. And certainly a contractor can decide to underbid is all they want, but they are going to pay for it later if they aren't sure that they knew what they were doing as far as looking at all the places in the documents in which we were going to hold their feet to the fire later and say, I'm really sorry, but this was documented clearly and it's your responsibility. So, and in that way, they're insured, they're bonded, right? There's a performance bond, there's a bid bond. So we use all tools at our disposal to be sure these projects will, but we're picking responsible contractors.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that. With that said, I just strongly say, I still have that as concern to the board moving forward. We got questions out there, and that I would be recommending that we take time. And I'm trying to make sure we stay on the timeline that we have for the referendum, because I know moving it back a week is challenging, and even moving it to next week being more challenging. But I just want to make sure that the board have time to digest what's in front of us.
And just one note to that, Dr. Jenkins, and to the board is that absolutely, I guess I sympathize with you that this is an important decision, and we just want to bring the information to you to make sure you are informed to be able to make this decision. But I do want to put the gravity of where we are at in the project. These bids that we're currently still deciding on, with this item being pulled, are in excess or about to be in excess of their 60 days of when they actually put these forth to us. So we really do need the board to make a decision. And if we need to delay a week, 2 weeks, a month, in order to help you feel fully informed to make such a responsible decision, I just want to put on the table that this could very well start to push into year 2025 with these projects. This is where we are. We are within weeks of bidding these projects. And this time, although is important, is critical to deliver the projects.
Thank you.
Board Member Carusi, followed by Board Member Gomez-Schmidt. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Board Member Ananda, followed by, or Board Member Morelli, followed by Board Member Carusi, followed by Board Member Gomez-Schmidt.
And that's fine, is my name, Sabian, thank you. So first, nice meeting you, Mike. Thank you so much for your work, and thank you so much, Mr. Hodo, for your work and the team around putting this information together. I just wanted to take a moment to just offer a lot of empathy to where you are, Mike, because I've been an MMSD employee. I've been one of the people that had to put a lot of information into the shortest amount of pages possible, and with an insane timeline to be ready for the board to understand an entire body of work, to interpret that, and to be able to have the information necessary to vote on particular bodies of work. So I wanted to offer that in no way. And I really hope that you and all MMSD staff and the entire team knows that, like, this is not an adversarial situation, right? We are here because we take responsibility to being stewards of our community. And one of the things that we've been working, and we have had lots of conversations about this during our retreat and with the senior leadership, is how do we make sure that the community really understand what we're doing? And when even even one of us or some of us or the majority of us is struggling absorbing the entire material or understanding, we know we needed to figure out how do we do this better, so we are consistently being transparent to the extent possible. Now, that does not mean that I'm going to be asking you all the specifics around this, because there's language in here that I don't understand, and I don't feel like I need to understand. What I do need to understand is that we're being fair with the ways in which we are navigating, and is there something else that we need to be looking at? And because we know like this, there's so much timeline and so much pressure on a lot of work, that some things can be overlooked. So, in some ways, we end up being sort of a thought partner about like, hey, have we thought about this? And I appreciate you, Dr. Jenkins, that the moment that you realize that there's some confusion, even among us that have been looking a lot of those documents for a year and a half, that maybe our community is, might be also having questions, and that is never a good place to be. So I wanted to share that with you, Mike, first. I do have a couple of questions, and it was around, I'm like looking at the bid analysis, and when I see, how the 1901 or NAMI were bidding different, where was those differences? And what I noticed was that a lot of the differences, and again, I don't need the detailed specifics, but a lot of those differences were around the HVAC systems or components of HVAC systems. I was hoping that you can speak a little bit about that, specifically. Some of them felt like some of them were $1 million difference between one and the other. Some were smaller. And again, I don't need to understand the HVAC system. I just need you to kind of help me navigate that. In particular, around the context that we're talking about, the global, we're still in a pandemic, COVID's still impacting people, people are still getting sick. So can you help us understand that a little bit? And if there's anything else from your perspective that you wanted to raise as far as here's how we have seen that showing up.
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions and observing and trying to put them side by side in those bid analysis. This is really nice and neat for all of us to look at, but the reality is that what we really receive, as much as we really try very hard when we're putting out a request for proposal to make it such that we're going to receive the information in the same way, it's just not exactly. These proposals are hundreds and hundreds of pages. So the bid analysis, and that's why it wasn't just MMSD looking at this. Our construction manager, Findorf, which you all know we have high confidence in, was involved with this. So when we do this, and in some cases you'll see included, or it won't necessarily say a number, they spend time calling the contractors and talking to them about their bids and trying to really understand why this or why that. Or for instance, you said, so I'm an electrical engineer by trade. So I'll give you an electrical example. Branch circuits and devices can be split up in two different things. So devices as in light switches, as in plug-in receptacles, versus the conduit that supported them. Well, depending on how the contractor decided to put this together, in devices, they may have a really small number, and in branch circuit, there may be a larger number. And actually, if you talk to them, really all the numbers there together, but if you really try and separate them in buckets, they just look at the buckets differently. With your comment around HVAC, there's a lot of sheet metal and there's a lot of piping in these projects. When we rip open these ceilings and we start providing updates that are needed for the systems, and especially since the documents aren't complete, the way that contractors take them off, it is based on their experience and based on also them saying, oh, they don't have this shown yet, but I know they're going to need it. So I'm going to put some dollars in there for that. So a bid analysis, it takes definitely a lot of expertise. And as you can see, our construction manager necessarily isn't an expert in electrical systems. They're not an expert in HVAC systems. They're experts in general construction and building. So I guess the answer is that the bid analysis is a complicated process, and we do our very best to try and make sure we're looking at apples to apples in comparison.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for you speaking to that. And I wanted to say that there is quite a bit of information to navigate. I wouldn't mind just having like another week for us to be better prepared to vote on this. And it seems like, you know, that even like among the team that there's need to be a little bit more conversation. And I don't want that to be reflected on your work, Mike, because I know you worked hard to make sure that this was, you know, ready for us to the degree possible, or you, Mr. Hodo. And also I wanted to appreciate all the folks that came and spoke to us and wanting to know more about our process. This has been the most cumbersome process that we have been. This is a critical and important referendum and a critical important use of our public funds. So I just wanted to share that with the team, that I'm super respectful of everyone that worked really hard to make sure that this information was ready for us tonight. And I want to just to be also in solidarity with my colleagues who have been asking like really great questions around this. And I hope that that we continue to just be supportive in this process and not lose sight that like that we are still in alignment, right? Like with the work and the promise that we have made to our community around using this dollars to what the community, to this vision for this community, right? For this vision for the schools and for the vision for our school district. So thank you very much. Thank you so much, Board Member Castro.
Thank you. Board Member Carusi, followed by Board Member Gomez-Schmidt, followed by Superintendent Jenkins.
Thank you. So I just have a few more questions. First of all, I very much appreciate the late night that you spent pulling this memo together for us. That's a lot of work. However, receiving this memo at 10:30 this morning means that I have not reviewed it in any way that I should have reviewed it before I vote on it. I do not feel prepared to vote on this issue just because I haven't had time to put the time in that I need to vote responsibly and to provide an informed vote. I also feel like the community hasn't had time to look this over and respond to it in a meaningful way. So for that reason, like I would feel fine voting on everything but NAMI, but I do not feel prepared to vote on the NAMI contracts tonight. This might be partly because I haven't had time to dig into this memo, but I don't understand the design assist procurement process at all. And I'm not actually clear what it is that the companies were bidding on. Like what's included in these bid numbers? Is it like not the actual furnace, but it's all the pipes and the sheet metal and the insulation that go with the furnace? Is it the labor and all those pipes and sheet metal? Like I'm not quite sure what's included in these proposals, and if like are we really comparing them apples to apples? Like is this proposal process such that what we're looking at is a direct comparison between the three groups, even when you get to the bottom line? I don't understand it that well, and I'd like an explanation so I can make a better decision.
Yes, so I just want to make one comment on the first comment about not being prepared to vote, given that you guys need to spend time to do your due diligence. Respect that and understand that, and echo my note of timeline and schedule and all of this. I would just also help the board understand that the actual bid day, which kind of ties into maybe more board members Carusi's questions that she currently asked. Actual bid day is coming up. November 3rd is bid day for, is the bids go out and then they are due back. It's only important for me to get this in the sense to due back on the 23rd for Capitol High. So there are more bids coming. So as you guys are looking at this and understanding, just know that what you're weighing is only a portion of the project. We have the official bids that are on the way, and those are the ones that we're concerned about the timeline of getting these answers and getting these contractors on board so we can meet them. The question, the design assist, totally get it, that it is not a obvious answer to what is typically referred to as a design bid build. Design bid build is the traditional way. Owner finds architect, owner find engineer, put together plans, bid out the project. Now you have contractors, design bid build. This is, there's several procurement methods that have translated in the industry over the course of the past several years. You'll hear another one, design assist, which we're talking about now. There's also design build, in which you would just decide to hire a contractor. That contractor has a professional engineer and architect on staff. They'll design it for you. You don't need to bid anything. There's advantages to all different methods. So if you were to, for instance, in your due diligence, go and talk to your contractor, any contractor friends that you know, which would be helpful to you to understand the processes, and you say design assist, they might describe to you a very different process. And then you're like, Mike Starr said something, and this contractor said something, and now I need another memo, unfortunately, to be able to feel informed. So design assist could also be that we only bring on the contractors prior to construction documents in order to help us review pricing only. And in that, at the end, we are still design, bid, build. So those same contractors will have to bid on the projects. What I find, and the reason that we went with this method, that upon selecting the design assist contractor, they are also the building contractor. They're the contractor who will install the HVAC system or the electrical system. And the reason for that is because in design assist methods that just bring on contractors for the sake of pricing, or maybe like coordination, duct goes here, pipe goes here, you know, organizing within the building, making sure you can fit in the box. When you do that, it depends on that contractor, how they're doing. While you're leading up to construction documents, they may get a bunch of other work. And then the design assist is kind of second, you know, they're like, yeah, we don't plan on bidding on those projects anyway. So there's a method, a means to the madness. If when you ask the contractor to put their feet in the pool, which is what we've done with these contractors, getting them to jump in the pool and know that they're going to stay in the pool, they're going to build the projects, is an entirely different mindset. These buildings are in the 1920s, in the 1930s. The documents we have just are as good as they can be renovations over time. So how, I think, Board Member Carusi, you said, how was this a benefit to MMSD? This is better buy-in from the design assist contractors, because they are going to be the builders. Everything they talk to us about in this process leading up to design is with the mindset that when we get there, they actually have to be able to do the work for the amount of money there that we're talking about, that they're helping us sort this out with. So we're getting that buy-off. And in addition to that, what protects us and how do we know we actually got competitive numbers? So the bid analysis you saw is competitive. So you can see each contractor said that if I had to build this today, here's my budget. And sure, that contractor, just like any other contractor bidding, gets to consider where we are. It's design assist. So maybe their budget's high, but maybe it's high because not enough is written down and they're not willing to accept liability or risk. And they'd rather the engineer take the risk. So they put more money in it. Yes, all of them will approach it however they would like. But the thing that secures us is that we have retail labor rates locked, established, done. In the project, come bid day, so for the construction documents, for instance, on the 3rd, when it opens and then they're due on November 23rd for Capitol High School, these contractors will be bidding the contractor that we've already said who's going to build it. And they have to use the rates they've already provided to us. So the only difference is just fluctuation in manufacturing costs. So we know indeed the costs that we're getting will be something that they can build and for based on retail labor rates that we've already established. And in construction, which is the most important part, when somebody finds something in a wall and yells change order, and I need more money for this because it wasn't documented, they aren't going to give us some arbitrary retail labor rates. When they say it's going to take 10 hours on site and 5 guys, we already know how much is that going to cost. It's not a mystery, like what's this change order going to cost? These are checks that we built into the system. Our construction manager will be auditing all of that. Any change order that comes through from these design assist contractors, they're going to be looking at the numbers, and they can't put any other retail labor rate other than the number of $80 an hour or whatever it is, and however many number of hours it's said for them to do. So I know that was a little broad and kind of short education on a design assist, design bid build, but I hope that maybe provided some context.
It does. Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. I still feel like I need more time to dig into this document before I can fully understand what was proposed and what we're comparing. And finally, I wanted to just comment on the RFP proposal versus the bid proposal and Policy 5000. Policy 5000 was put into place a long time ago in response to pretty serious problems that we experienced when we constructed Chavez Elementary School. And I don't think at the time they were thinking, is it an RFP or is it a bid? I think they were thinking we want to ensure that we get the best possible construction proposals for MMSD. So when I read that our process met the spirit of Policy 5000 while returning best results and to the district and to taxpayers, my immediate thought was that actually we need to be following Policy 5000, not just working in the spirit of Policy 5000, whether it's an RFP or a request for bids, given that this is about construction and Policy 5000 specifically addresses construction in the district. So just a thought, you don't have to respond to it, but that's all my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Board Member Carusi. Board Member Gomez-Schmidt, followed by Superintendent Jenkins, followed by Board Member Pearson, and then I'm going to hop in.
Great, thank you. And thank you, Mike, for this really detailed memo. I think like my board colleagues, I haven't had time to digest this. There just wasn't enough time in the afternoon. But I did get a little time to look over it. And as you were walking us through it, and I had the same question that Ananda had about the difference in the HVAC equipment. To me, this basically led to the differences in the project budgets, which were scored really differently for Memorial and for Southside. And, you know, the different projects came in much closer to each other for La Follette. And so I'm just, again, curious about the equipment issue and why. I mean, are we getting the same HVAC equipment? Are they bidding on the same thing?
Yeah, so sorry, I probably could have helped provide some context even better on this earlier. So the projects, the order of the projects are, we're currently about to put out Capitol High School, and then we'll be putting out West High School and then East High School. I believe, I guess I'll redact the specific order. I can provide that with you separately, but the point is the level of documentation that was available to bid on the projects were at different rates based on they'll be bid on separate days. So if the numbers were a little bit tighter on one of the projects versus the other, it was based on that those documents have been further developed.
Okay, again, I think I need a little bit more time to digest this and understand exactly how it works. I really appreciate your explanation of the design assist and how this is all going to work. I guess, you know, again, I feel like it's our job as a board to make sure that Policy 5000 is being followed. And one of my questions was around, you know, you said the 5% doesn't need to be followed because of the different process or the difference in this particular process that is happening for this. I feel like we need a little bit more detail on that as well. And then I guess another question that I have is, you said that the bids are about to be in excess of 60 days. So if we were to not vote on this, it's the Memorial, the La Follette, and the South Side that would, it's not going to affect the capital bid. And so I guess what is the bid day for these three specific projects? And how close are we getting to that excess of 60 days?
Okay. So the first question of the 5%, the 5% is indeed provided in the scorecard. And I suppose the difference is that we were transparent about it. We talked about it ahead of time. That I don't know that Policy 5000 necessarily says that it would need to be before the process that we could talk about how we're sure to address policy 5,000 or if we have to do it afterwards. The 5% was provided as 5 points out of 100. And that was talked about with the union ahead of time, shown that helped them feel that policy 5,000 was being addressed. So the alternative would have been not to address that portion of policy 5,000, wait until we get to the end of what would be in our case, an RFP process, and then added it. So we could, the scorecards without having done anything different to the process could be revised to show it done on the outside if that was the preference. But again, so that it didn't look like we maybe did or did not do that 5%, it was put in there to be fully transparent. So I believe we've met that. The question of the 60 days isn't as much a question of will we hit the bid date as much as it is all of these contractors, union, non-union, local contractors that are currently putting their head out, their neck out, if you allow me, on the line, anticipating that this is work that they will have on their schedule for the next 2 years. Currently, the way we have been, as I noted before, this is actually via the construction manager's contract. So we're just searching for the design assist approval from the board that these contractors can be increase the amount of the Findorf contract. So it's that what we did leading up to waiting for board approval is open our maximum procurement of $10,000 Findorf did to allow these contractors to continue to work with us while we're waiting for the board policy, the board to approve. So currently they've likely hit that $10,000 pre-construction or is very close. And then in addition to that, there's 60 days past. So they have the right contractually to update their bid. And that's not just this non-union contractor, all of the contractors on this. So just from contractually, so what does that mean? Does that extend bid deadlines or what? It's just necessarily putting the contractors that may or may not get this work on the edge of their seat. And we don't know how long we want to make them sit on the edge of their seat because ultimately we need their help to procure these projects.
So the bid date for all of the schools is November 3rd.
No, they're spread out. They are spread out. I can provide, we'll provide the specific bid dates to the board.
Okay, but you're saying we have already been in excess of the 60 days.
I believe these proposals, which were submitted on September 9th, I'd have to do some counting here to see. So from September 9th is 60 days, and in their bids for this, it says their bids are only good for 60 days. So right now, the non-union contractor isn't telling us that they will need to revise their price. But we do realize and recognize, and Findorf has made sure we are aware that currently we're kind of on a hope and a prayer, I suppose, if you allow that as well.
Mike, is it business days or days? Google saying 53 days.
We'll do both because I'm sorry that I haven't been able to give you specifics here. We'll give you the bid dates and we'll also note the specific number of days and which dates.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out is that if we actually push a vote and do a special meeting next Monday to readdress this, does that make the deadline? That is my question.
We will ask in good faith that the union and non-union contractors that could the board could go either way. We will ask that they will wait until next week. We've currently told them as of last week that we hope to have a decision by tomorrow, but we can ask and hope that we'll see what they have to say.
Okay. And then my other question, and this is probably for the administration, can you clarify, there's 12 bids here, right? For each of the schools. Is there a way, I mean, can we separate those out? Can we pull the two where there's a question and separate those, or do they all have to go as a set of 12?
Short of another person providing information, I would really like it if you would isolate the two and go ahead and approve the other.
So are you saying that is an option? We can do that?
Yes, as soon as on any of these that we can provide board approval. So for instance, on the one that doesn't have a non-union contractor, that would be appreciated.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
One follow-up to that, I guess, if you were to proceed on just one of them, and again, on the non-union contractor bid on that one as well, and then next Monday you had a decision that was not the non-union contractor, that may bring into question that first one, because, right, so there may be a ripple effect given that there's contractors. So I would like that information to help us move forward, but if that makes sense, that potentially.
Can you explain that more?
Yeah, so let's just say, for instance, on Monday next week, for whatever reasons the board has, and to your right, if you were decide to award it to a different contractor, or you were decide to tell us that we must rebid it in a particular fashion or anything, I guess the board would just recognize that, of course, the union and the non-union contractors have a right to bring up their concerns. So we haven't heard concerns from the non-union contractors. From building services point of view, we feel that we have indeed met the board policies and that it is fair. And if you were to come to a conclusion next week that we would not be awarding this to the non-union contractor, and or we were to make them rebid, and or any other scenario that isn't what we currently have in our selection process, we should be prepared that the non-union contractor will have potentially legal questions or otherwise that may cause all of the bids to be question. And I don't say that in any kind of intimidating, we need your answer. I do want you to be very informed and comfortable with your decision. I'm happy to meet with you even in addition to that Monday meeting this week. But I just want to make sure we all understand that, of course, this non-union partner is indeed, if something happens, they'll have questions too. Right now, they're just hoping the board continues with what we're recommending, but otherwise, just know that could be.
No, I appreciate that, Mike. And I just want to make sure that I restate that, again, I feel my role is to figure out if we followed a good process and that we followed our policy. I'm not out to pick one contractor over another. I do feel that that is your professional job and the job of our administration to do that in consultation with Findorf. And this is just to think about it this way, this is the very start of all of our referendum projects. We have a lot of work to do, right? And so I do want to obviously reassure people that we're just trying to make sure that we have a good process in place and that was followed. And I do just say I want to respect the process.
All right, thank you. I'm just going to hop in here and say that I have so far heard from 4 board members that folks have not had enough time to review the documents. Additionally, we are running a little bit over time. So I just want to remind everyone participating in this conversation to be self-aware of the time you are taking up. With that, Board Member Pearson, please.
I actually was just going to call the question and either figure out if we're going to vote on it or not. I'm opposed to voting on it tonight. I do think that we do need a little more time to review the documents as well, as I think it's important that we are making the best decision possible. So yes, that's where I'm at.
Got it. Thank you. And just real quick, I will share, wish I could have had more time to review these documents today, especially for a project that will be building a school on a side of town that has been historically neglected for a variety of reasons. And so we need to make sure that we're doing this job done well and that we're doing this job thoughtfully too, and that we're not cutting any corners here. So I will be asking for a scope of work, particularly with regard to HVAC, because I don't want us to cut any corners for the south side. Board President Muldrow, please.
I actually want to support Maya's with a second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion?
I'm gonna need the language for the motion. please.
Okay, yeah, so we're gonna have Board President Muldrow and then Board Member Pearson can read the motion.
Yeah, so I just wanted to chime in that we do have the ability to give notice before next Monday, especially if we're running the risk of having to reconfigure the entire bidding process. So I think the soonest we could meet and post notice would be Wednesday afternoon. Barb, is that correct?
Yes.
24 hours.
All right, so I mean, we can move sooner, and I do think the stakes are really high in terms of this conversation, because although I want us to ensure that the quality of work is high in terms of building the school, the timeline is also incredibly relevant. There's a chain reaction to not building the Southside School on time, which is that New Estro has nowhere to go. They actually lose their building, and so I think we want to be cognizant of how thorough we can be while being mindful of the potential risk of making these projects far more expensive, because there is that risk, and delaying a lot of work. So I agree for tonight that we need to go back and review the information we were given today. But I also think that we need to move rapidly and prioritize this. And so I will be in communication with Barb and Dr. Jenkins to get us back into a special meeting as soon as possible in order to make these decisions one way or another.
Raise your hand.
Got it. And with that, I will read. Go ahead. What's that?
Vicky has another question.
Real quick, Board Member Vandermolen.
Yes, hold on. Sorry. I wanted to elevate St. Vance Point as the scope of the work. I find it incredibly important, and I think it's necessary. Also, I'd like to see if we can separate the project from the others. I'm trying. I was hoping that we could separate these two projects for the rest of the day.
And that is the Southside School, and what's the other one?
Memorial.
Okay.
Board Vice President Castro, I think what Mr. Starr was trying to explain with regard to separation is that the non-union contractor bid on 3 projects. If we separate, then there could be an issue depending on how the board voted, because they did actually vote on 3 and only 1, 2. So you just want to keep that in mind when we're talking about separation, that it won't just be about the one we're talking about tonight. It could be about the one that they lost in the beginning as well. Or it could be that, the union decides that they, want, or either one want to increase what they bid already, right? So I just want to put that out there so we're clear that, there are consequences if we decide to do a separation tonight and vote on ones that at this moment appear that we're in agreement with.
Okay. Board Member Pearson.
So I think that we should just table it until Wednesday. I think what Board President Mildrell said is important. We want to make haste, and I think Savian, I'm a Southsider, so I would love to get this school done in a timely fashion. But I also want to be mindful and do my due diligence. So if I can call the question, I guess my motion would be to hold off from voting tonight and set up a special meeting in, I guess, the next time that we're able to, the earliest that we're able to notice a special meeting and vote then. Is that clear? I don't know. Barb?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Got it. Second. Board Member Carusi.
Yeah, I would just, the one piece of what you just proposed that I'm concerned about is I think the shortest we're able to notice it is 24 hours, which would be tomorrow. And I'm not sure I don't know if I'll actually have enough time to read this, submit any questions I have, and get responses in 24 hours. So I would actually ask for at least 48. Just, I don't want to burden the administration with, if I have questions, they would have to turn it around awfully darn quickly.
I can't do it.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I was just saying the earliest to notice for to give 24 hours, but realistically, I was thinking Wednesday or Thursday. So do I need to amend my motion, Barb?
Nope. Nope, we'll figure it out.
Okay,
Figure it out with members, okay?
okay.
Thank you.
I second it. Any discussion? Now your advisory vote.
Aye.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. Board President Mulder, was that an aye?
Was that unanimous? Yes?
Yes, that's an aye, my bad.
Thank you.
All good. All right, motion carries 7-0. May I please get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye. See y'all at the next one.
Thank
All
you.
right, peace.
May we have 5 minutes, Chair?
We lost the chair when we went on
I'm
Zoom.
sure that'll be fine, Nikki, go ahead.
Thank you.
Take you that long to get it.
Normally, I don't text.